Something. Something.
All right, so with that, please join me in welcoming Peter.
Thank you. Thank you. Jake wouldn't do a talk with no shoes this year. I don't know why, but so I'm going to do it for you, Jake. Winner. Nail. So yeah, hey, thanks for wrapping up your Saturday. Beautiful day out. What's it, 4 o'clock? The fact that you stuck around, I appreciate. Hopefully you won't be too disappointed. Yeah, you're gonna be disappointed. But yeah, we'll go on with it. So, Internet of Terrible. Can you hear me meow? So a little bit about me. Yes, Brandon McCrillis, Rendition InfoSec. We're hiring. Have we said that we're hiring yet?
Yeah,
No?
we're hiring.
Yeah, we're hiring. I need a break. So contact information. All right, so we're going to discuss case studies of conducting network enumeration using voice over IP infrastructure and other embedded devices. I'm also going to highlight attack methodologies used for credential harvesting, enumeration, denial of service, and persistence. Practical defensive techniques for the defenders and real-world attacker mitigations via who knew monitoring and secure configuration, which still tends to be a thing. I don't know how they got in there. Yeah, just ignore that. So times have changed. Check out this Texas Instruments advertisement from 1982. Look at the specs on the computer, itself.
More than one thing has changed about that ad.
Yeah. If anyone knows anything else that's changed, maybe it's worth a drone. I don't know. But yeah, times have changed. We're increasingly more connected. We're more out there on the interwebs, and that's a problem. It pays Jake's daughter's college bill, tuition bill. But hey, times have been changing. So even though they canceled this, I was like, man, I really need to reuse this slide from my USMA talk back in March, Cyber Talks Atlanta. Yeah, the Internet of Terrible. The Internet's going to kill you. Spacebar beep boop bop click.com. You can read. Man, it's a scary, scary world out there. Next slide. So damn Internet, you scary, man. You scary. There's a lot of stuff out there. I'm just like, wow, why are you even doing this? It's what?
Slow on the uptake.
Rap. Spy on you, Barbie. There is nothing creepy about this picture, though others have told me that there is. This is, I was dismantling Barbie. I took a picture of it. Yeah, I'm not sure where her head is now. It might be on.
Place in the office, and that's all I'm saying.
Is it still on your desk?
It is still on the desk.
That's equally creepy. Equally. Spy on you, Barbie. So just real quick, Rendition jumped on Hello Barbie, purchased one of these things, took it apart. At its core, Mike Banks, you helped with this, huh? Remember that? Barbie's kind of dumb. I mean, a lot of her processing and intelligence was all cloud. So Barbie herself, I guess if we're, humanizing a toy, is, kind of dumb. We could still do some things like, let's hot mic it. It can be, throw it in back of dad's car, hot mic'd and, kind of see what happens over the weekend. But, hey. Embedded devices. Doing things with stuff. So we have more of these embedded devices, as Jake was talking about earlier in his talk, which is fantastic. A lot of embedded devices out there, a lot of things that are running web servers and web services that are easily exploitable, not secure by any stretch of the imagination, and it's getting worse. This was a picture, I apologize if you can't see it so great. This was a Delta airline, and it's a little in-flight entertainment system booting up a Linux kernel. Why not? You probably can't see some of these dates in here, 2002, 2001, how are they patching these things? I mean, we still see Delta with, Windows 2000 computers, keeping the plane in the air. So, hypothetically. So yeah, this is my point. More embedded devices out there. Many services, much lulls. I said that backwards, but you get my point. Living off the land. I mean, what are their what can we do? What do we see in real world penetration testing and vulnerability assessments? First one. So these are all real world engagements. Rendition is done. This is an air magnet WIPS, wireless intrusion prevention system. Default credentials. I was showing to the client that, oops, I logged because I tried admin first instead of air magnet sensor as the user. Oops. But in a regulated environment, everyone's constantly thinking, secure the endpoint, secure my Windows box, secure my server, secure this. But something that's supposed to be filling a security role for you, well, let's just keep that default. Not so much. This is a web GUI level 15 exec on a router in the same network. Hey, a little command box. Let me do some clicking. Definitely things that you don't want accessible to your internal users. The quintessential webcam. So, we see these all the time, default creds. And it's cool to show to a client. You add a password in there, kind of can zoom in and see what's possibly on that gentleman's screen. I actually, because I don't have much of a life, just kind of sat there and watched video for a while. One of the things I showed to the client was I turned off a lot of their video logging, which is definitely bad if you're hoping to have that in your call center or whatever this. I hoped it was the IT department. So I'm watching videos and I see these two ladies like just setting up this banner and taping it, and then as I'm going through video, all of a sudden a little bit's gone, right? So I was like, all right, I'll isolate that exact moment in time where that fell, and maybe they'll catch the culprit that ripped this thing down. I don't know. Again, I was bored. So around 2 a.m. The wind blew and it came down a little bit here. I thought that was great. Like I said, I know I need help. So this one, all right. So we have an FTP server running on a APC UPS device. Okay, let's say rather large APC UPS device in your rack in your data center, and instead of one, we'll say I don't know a dozen, all default credentialed FTP server running. I grabbed a config in this particular shot. So, I mean, hey, who cares? Okay, so you can grab my config for my UPS. Okay, well, what can I do with your config? Let's see. I can re-upload a new config to you. I can enable SSH. I can change your DNS server. I can enable Telnet. I can do all kinds of crazy stuff with it. Because I have your default credentials, I'll throw that thing back up on there. Maybe take it out of bypass mode. Remove all your thresholds. Maybe it's not really serving an UPS at that point, and you're not going to find out until it's too late. Full disclosure, this was a credit card environment, credit card processor, we'll say, hypothetically. What is 1 minute of downtime to a international credit card processor? Probably a lot of freaking money, right? This screenshot here, they had their read and write SNMP community names sitting in there, blacked them out to protect the innocent. But things like that, that's another breadcrumb where I can now start targeting more of your core infrastructure. Yes, sir, you in the back.
How many devices were those SNMP credentials shared with on the network?
How many devices were the SNMP credentials shared? Well, we own their SolarWinds box, so I guess we could go figure that out and see. Yeah, pretty much all. And typing your company name and then putting priv, and typing your company name and putting pub, isn't really obscuring or making this community string any harder to guess. Just saying. So the bread and butter of this one, so I can go in as administrator, and I can reboot the ups. I'll put it to sleep, put it to bypass. I'll just turn the whole damn thing off. And the client's like, well, how does this affect me? And we said, well, we'll go and shut them all off. And they're like, no! So, yeah, hopefully you get my point. Getting on to the voice over IP infrastructure stuff, a ShoreTel IP800 phone. Laughing at the host name's called Mistake. It had default creds. That was a mistake. Yeah, so what can I do from here? All right, well, I'll check out the numbers you've been calling. Just so happens this is in an executive conference room. We find out after the fact. This is one of 3 devices that we located all default creds for ShoreTel. So at 3 in the morning, I'm like, I'll just call somebody. So I don't know whose phone rang, but, demonstrating, could I hook up a little headset? Could I reroute that traffic? Could I do some redirection stuff? Can I call the CEO at home and say there's an emergency? Can I call the IT department and say, hey, don't come in until 10 tomorrow? Who knows? Can I call your mom and say, you're going to be late for dinner? I'll probably do that. One of the coolest things built into this, because why not? You have your little web GUI for this device that's really just enabling you to conference with other entities. There's a little utility in there. It had a ping, trace route, some other kind of things. I'm not even going to speculate what privilege level on the actual device ping was running as. I'll let Jake fill in the blanks, or please review his talks, and you can kind of figure it out. But I started mapping the network in a rudimentary fashion from an IP phone using default creds. Okay, so they had a security operations center. As a SOC analyst, if you start seeing traffic from this IP phone, are you going to instantly say, oh, it's an attacker? I'd be like, that ShoreTel device is a piece of junk. It's pinging all the devices in the network. I don't need to be on your endpoint. I don't need to mess with Emmet. I don't need to mess with your antivirus, IP tables. I don't need to mess with any of your other kind of catch the bad guy techniques or countermeasures. I can just hang out here and kind of get a good initial baseline of what your network looks like. So Avaya. This is a big call manager. This does everything from voice over IP, a little bit of switching stuff. It does some conferencing. Another default credentials sitting on the trusted LAN in a PCI environment. So I found out, well, this thing's got SSH going. So it only took me two sets of creds, and that's because I Googled Avaya Aura default creds. They had 2. The second one got me in. Hey, welcome to your new account. So I'm like, all right, that's cool. So now we're sitting here as the user cust, which is a Avaya hard-coded user that is for support of the device itself. Does the client know that? Hopefully. Hopefully that's in your kind of in your lay of the land, knowing your network. But cust and then cust01 is a password. I'm on SSH. So didn't really show you in that screenshot, but if you saw Jake's talk earlier, that thing was running Linux 2.6. So I get on there as a user. How quickly can I get to root? What can I do at that point? I pretty much own all of your VoIP infrastructure at that point. I can mess with your phones. I can mess with your traffic. I can do all kinds of sort of nefarious things. And this thing's also storing backups. I was actually kind of freaked out. I thought that was a social security number when I just put that slide up, and I was like, oh crap. But it's not, I swear. No one write that down. But up here you see IP phone backup. So, I grab my IP phone backup. I unzip that. I'm getting all kinds of enumeration of users. Some of them had titles in there. This one's pretty benign, but there were, CEO's office, things like that. Hey, now I have another breadcrumb on my trail to owning all of your infrastructure. So, being 2.6, Linux compiled a log rotate exploit, VI threw it into exploit.c. I needed a compiler because there wasn't one on the device. The device was configured so it could not talk out to the internet, but cool, I just threw a compiler on my redirector, Kali box, and just did a wget locally to that, and there you go. I now have a compiler. You fill in the rest of the blanks. It's owned. So, voice over IP. So I did a talk for the U.S. Military Academy, and I discussed how one of our largest incident responses that I was a part of when I joined Rendition, the head of the incident response said, hey, if you were in the network and you were tipped off that we're going to start this incident response and try to remediate things, what would you do? And I was like, I'd be in your VoIP phones. I'd be in your infrastructure. I would be embedded so deep in places that you're not even going to look for me. So after that talk, I was like, well, I should probably do another talk of what I meant by that. And here it is. What is VoIP? Definitely not that. That's one of the first hits. I'm like, what is VoIP? There's too much to say about that. That's not what VoIP is. So Asterisk. Asterisk is a, let's say, we'll say it's a PBX, right? It's a public branch exchange. It handles your public switch telephone network traffic, your VoIP net traffic. Basically, your phones are talking through this thing. Where it's at, 2 turntables and a Polycom phone. If anyone's a Beck fan, hopefully you got that. What's in the box? Sorry. So in the box, after this talk, I flew up to Columbus. Another guy that works for Rendition, Jeff, he owns a PC recycling company, does a little eBay. And he's like, hey, I have a whole pallet of these Polycom phones. Do you want one? I was like, sure, I'll definitely take one. This is kind of how it came. Let's move on. So factory reset these damn things, right? The boot server address is in there. I found some other interesting information that was kind of just sitting on the phone. There's actually a factory reset me button, or in the menu. It's not that hard, especially if you're changing out devices. Now, this Polycom SoundPoint 501 phone's probably era 2006, 2007. At $200+ a piece, are they probably still doing their job in large environments or any corporate environment? Yeah, heck yeah. If they're working and they're doing their thing, I'm sure they're still around. Just trace the IP, came out somewhere around Washington, D.C. We'll leave it at that. So, pulling up the Polycom menu, Polycom provisioning documents, it was like, hey, if you want to make your local machine the provisioning server for all these phones, just do it. And I was like, oh, awesome. Also found out that anything that you change or modify on the phone itself, where you can set your boot server, your provisioning server, syslog server, anything like that, hard-coded on the phone or entered on the phone overrides anything that's provisioned over the network. So, okay, so you have physical access there, but I really don't need to do that. If you see in this other slide, it's looking for phone 1 config and SIP config, TFTP. So I can change that to FTP. I'll do a little FTP server on my local box. I'll throw a default or modified phone 1 config and a SIP config in there. The phone just kind of reaches out with default FTP credentials and says, hey, do you have these files? If you do, it sucks them up, it consumes them, it reboots, and it runs like that. There's no, hey, I don't think you're really my provisioning server. The phone just does what you tell it to do because it's dumb like Barbie. Default creds. Actually, Mike's talk earlier, that PLCM SPIP. I saw in your top creds like number 11, right? So I thought that was kind of interesting. Default user pass 123, default admin pass 456. Considering that these phones were not factory reset, can you guess what the recycled phone's credentials were? Oh yeah, the default creds. Not a good thing. Not a good thing. The phone itself, a little web GUI, and it asks for authentication. So I'm like, cool, I'll bite. Authenticate over HTTP. I mean, we're dealing with default creds, so I was like, okay, not a huge deal, right? But let's say you're like, oh man, I'm really gonna go in and secure my VoIP phones after this talk. Know that it's still sending creds in the clear. So in the packet, we see a little base64 encoded string. We throw that in some PowerShell, and comes out Polycom 456. Easy. One of the first things I do when I get in any net is I just run a Wireshark for a while, or PCAP capture, and kind of baseline the net. You can capture those creds plain text all day. Depends what you're going at. So to kind of continue my research, I had to get a PBX, or at least I felt like I wanted to mess with PBX. Asterisk Now is Digium's free Linux distro of free PBX. It sucks to configure. Anyone that does that for a living, configures these phones, man, I really I applaud you, because the thing just sucks, especially in a VM. It did not want to play well installing into VMware whatsoever, but we got it done. One of the cool things, and this kind of goes to the defensive side, you try to put in a password on there for root, and it's like, that's a dictionary word. I mean, it's doing some rudimentary analysis on what you're typing in there, and, like a good user, I'm like, yeah, use anyway, cool, I don't care where, it's an IP phone. I mean, who would target my IP phone and why? The Asterisk Now GUI also comes up saying that we have default admin password, default Asterisk manager password. Hopefully people that are configuring these things, don't think that this was built into the web GUI to kind of alert you to these things for no reason at all. Obviously it's screaming at you to change things. So calling your mom. I think your mom's nice. I like talking to her on the phone. Common attack vectors, historically, for voice over IP infrastructure is, enumeration and information gathering, enumeration, monitoring, eavesdropping, VLAN hopping, attacking authentication, which you kind of already did a little bit, denial of service, flooding, and spoofing caller IDs. All awesome things to do, and we're going to do some. Oh. We're going to do some sexy things with these phones. So when an attacker owns your VoIP, one of the coolest things that, for me, and this isn't just Polycom specific, Cisco also does this, some SNOM phones, kind of pick your VoIP IP phone vendor and check this out. There's a SIP notify packet that has a check sync in there. And basically what this does is it goes to the phone responds with a 200 OK, and the phone reboots and then grabs a new config. It doesn't say, who are you sending me this packet? It just says, sure, I'll reboot. So, if I have, one, taken over your provisioning server at this point, or two, masqueraded as your provisioning server, and kind of pointed you to my direction to grab your config, I can, widespread just reboot all these phones, have them suck up my new config, and I win. It actually says in here, remotely rebooting the phone. In the Polycom manual, like this is an everyday thing. Yeah, extraordinary admin task. I'm sure this saves many, many man hours, but an attacker can use this to his or her advantage, own your VoIP. There you go. So forced consumption of a tampered configuration to the phone, completely unauthenticated. So let's think of a check sync DDoS. Or DOS, sorry. I'm in your network. Let's say my purposes aren't for exfil of data or SIGINT collection. So I've heard. Say I'm just there to wreak havoc. Maybe I start DOSing all of your IT department phones, right? I have these things just constantly just in a loop rebooting over and over and over again. And at the same time, I'm powering off all the ups in your data center. I'm crushing some of your servers. What's your incident response really going to look like? You're relying on this kind of stuff. Maybe you can tie a note to a rat and kind of kick it down the hall and hopefully, you get some help. Interesting things here. So, what's it? Tied to cat. Yep. Tied to cat. Herding the cats, with all the notes on them is hard, but so there's an awesome Python-based SIP packet forging tool. So I'm sitting there with Scapy, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to capture one of these check sync packets, and then I'm going to replay it maliciously and wrap that into a loop. Good thing this guy, nice Italian gentleman, Mr. Bertera, made this SIP ping Python tool, which basically lets you craft SIP packets, whether it be a specific message that you want sent to the phone, or to push a new config to have it reboot. I used it for the check sync packets, and it worked like a charm. A couple switches, TAC S for source, TAC D for destination, TAC P for port, type in 5060 for SIP, hit the Make Go Now button, and your phone reboots. Another cool one I found, special extensions. So if your CEO's phone is extension 3000, right? I can add an extension called, we'll name it 3001. It's hard for me to think of, 3001. Now, what I can also do is I can set how the phone answers that, right? So when I dial 3001, it goes to the CEO's phone. I can set that thing to auto answer with no user notification at all, and turn on the mic. That's a great way to kind of monitor, think of an attacker hot micing a bunch of phones in your security operations center to kind of see, what they're scrambling after, how you're trying to get me, what you're trying to find next. Maybe I just want to hot mic some of your C-level execs if I'm trying to steal proprietary information. Maybe I'm a competing business. Who knows? The fact that this happens, that you can just have this phone not even ring once and just go boop into hot mic, it just blew me away. So guilty knowledge now. Please use it for good only. You can also do the same thing with a group of extensions, right? So I can say, all right, extension 9000, it's going to ring these 40 phones. I can do the same thing, have it auto answer, I can have it hot mic, I can have it do all kinds of stuff. I can lock out the user just by setting how I want this phone to respond when called on this other extension. Now, to the user, I'm not messing with their normal extension. I'm adding something that is, not known to them. They don't know this is happening. Their phone still responds and does everything it's supposed to do, except for when I want it to do something special, it will do it. If you're curious, the VoIP prot SIP alert info 1 class, you set it to a value of 3, it auto answers without any ringing. Very easy. Like I said, this is your SIP config. If you remember before, your Polycom phone by default was looking for phone1.config and SIP config. So I make this little modification in my SIP config. I host it locally on my FTP or TFTP server. I send a check sync packet to your phone. It reboots. There you go. I'm good to go. The most scary, in my opinion, VLAN hopping, right? VLANs, what? VLANs, that's excellent network segmentation. Until you plug it into the other port, and then you're writing a trusted VLAN for your voice over IP phones, which likely bypass firewalls and proxies. Maybe you have some content filter at your place of employment that doesn't like you to go to XYZ website. As most administrators and most configurations we see, the voice over IP VLAN is explicitly trusted. Rock on. How does this work? So you have 2 ports on the back of your phone, right? We'll say VLAN 20 is for the voice over IP traffic directly to the phone, and then VLAN 10 is computer traffic, right? If you didn't know, if you have one of these kind of IP phones, let's say you have a Cisco IP phone sitting next to your desk, or one on each side of your monitor, I don't know, I'm speaking hypothetically here, it's your gateway. Your traffic from your computer goes to the phone first. And there's a little, like I said, it's like Barbie, phone's not very smart. No offense to Barbie, I'm sure she's really smart in real life, I've never met her. But, it's not too hard to trick this thing and say, well, I'm going to plug into my my network port instead of the PC port on the phone. And then most of these phones, Cisco supports CDP. Spoiler alert, the VLAN ID is actually hard-coded into the phone. So if you go through the menu and you type your 456 crazy admin password to get into the thing, you can actually see your VLAN tag. Maybe I add that to my traffic, add that over here. Maybe I just start sniffing for CDP traffic and I see my, voice VLAN ID. There you go. Rock on. I am now sitting on your VoIP VLAN. Instead of being directed through your monitoring devices, firewalls, what have you. Don't try that at home. Don't try that at home. So there's some ways around this. You can Google, pretty much how to. You can sinkhole your IP, right? So if you're on your voice over IP VLAN, let's say extension 3000, that phone is disconnected. You can then say anything that connects on that interface, we'll just black hole that until we figure it out. That kind of gets around people doing the whole plug and play, grabbing a new IP address on this voice over IP VLAN and rocking on. That's one way to mitigate this stuff. Also, Mr. Bertera, who does the SIP ping, also has a great blog post about how to block and filter SIP traffic using IP tables. So, two different ways there. So, Kali Metasploit. Old versions of Kali, and we'll even say, let's say Backtrack. We'll say Backtrack 4.5. You had a lot more robust voice over IP tools. Current Kali distros, let's say 2, you're going to see a lot of this under Metasploit in auxiliary VoIP and auxiliary scanner SIP. It's mostly enumeration scripts and then a little bit of funky voice over IP exploit tools in there for client-based, like a Windows voice over IP application, things like that. The old versions of Kali, or if you're going to go backtrack, you'll see the SIP Vicious, SIP Dump, SIP Crack tool suites, and that does everything from man in the middle your authentication between your phones, can dump creds, you can mess with configs, do all kinds of cool stuff there. Future development. SIP tunneling. I mean, that's not too hard. Exploit and exfiltration framework, I think, would be awesome to see. If you can ride through a whole network through your scanning, enumeration, your recon, your exploitation, your persistence phases, using nothing but this sort of infrastructure, and then hopping between these embedded devices and the call manager and all that, do you really need to be on a Windows box? No. I mean, if I have your Avaya call management system, can I just map a share to your file server and start sucking things out that way? Yeah. Is your SOC analyst going to say, "Wow, this call manager is doing some weird SMB traffic now"? Maybe. Maybe they'd be like, "Huh, that's weird," right? More cat videos. Enumeration of trusted devices within the information system. I think that's great. I'd like to see some more robust tools from the voice over IP side to be able to just enumerate your Windows boxes, and nmap for VoIP devices, so to speak. And then flashing custom firmware. So these things run a little, lightweight embedded kernel, Linux kernel. Flashing it like you would an access point or something like that. The Avaya and some Asterisk distros actually are so lightweight that you can throw these things on pretty much anything. It's not an incredible amount of space. Maybe you could repurpose some of this stuff, what have you. Just wrapping it up. Trusted can't be trusted, right? You'll see it all over the place. Hopefully you don't see it in your own networks. Former employer, yeah, their voice over IP VLAN was trusted. And then simply removing the plug from your PC port and putting into your network port allowed you to bypass Blue Coat proxy and kind of hang out over there. Trusted can't be trusted. You have to don't trust anything and then kind of then kind of allow more things out. Lock it down first. Secure monitoring, secure configuration, monitoring for the win. Monitor your network. Know what things look like. Know what your traffic looks like. Configure your devices securely. Nothing should be default, even if it's something as simple as a defibrillator or an IV pump. Make sure that it's configured securely, that services are running in the least amount of privilege, and that you're changing these default passwords. Know your network better than I will. You do this for a while, and you can very quickly baseline a network. Everyone that's involved in the configuration and administration of the information system as a whole should know that network way better than I can in 10 minutes. Pinging and doing some sniffing from a call manager box. Man, I don't know how these got in there. I cut a little early. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Any questions? I'll take some. I know we have some swag, stuffs. Yes, sir.
So, with the recent Black Energy hack that hit out in Ukraine, I was curious, I had heard that they were doing DOSing on the phone systems. Is that related to the same methodology that you described in your slides?
So I don't have any first-hand knowledge on exactly how they were doing a denial of service on phones. I would expect that it's a very same kind of way. I mean, you can flood these things with packets. The check sync packet, the fact that I can just send that to any phone and have the thing reboot, and loop is just crazy to me. I can speculate and say, that's a way that I would do it if I wanted to, lock out phones.
Ryan, did you check out any of the call recording features built into Asterisk?
So, like I said, Asterisk's a pain in the butt. Excuse me. Asterisk's a pain in the butt. Yes, I was researching some ways to kind of suck that traffic out. I believe it's called. The name escapes me now. There is actually a tool that's in Metasploit or in the Kali distros that's what it does. It grabs Cisco VoIP traffic and some other vendor VoIP traffic and converts it into WAV audio files.
So is there any way to is there any firmware that's like a DDWRT for VoIP reciprocal IP phones to secure them more, or is it mostly just for exploitation of these custom firmwares?
Interesting you say that. So I was actually reading just before, because obviously I've been geeking out on this for a little bit. There's actually an OpenWrt PBX type distro, which OpenWrt has its own kind of vulnerabilities there. Is there kind of like an open source OpenWrt type distro for that? I mean, free PBX comes in very different flavors. You have the Digium version, Asterisk Now, which has all of your features of free PBX, which is distributed under the GNU public license. However, Digium likes to charge you for other things. They have some very cool endpoint manager plugins and modules, and they're nickel and diming you. There's free PBX. It's the main project of free PBX also puts out a kind of more lightweight free PBX distro that's more, I guess, configurable. Does that answer kind of what you're? I guess. Okay.
So coming back to the question about the firmware for the phones, the answer is not yet standby.
Yeah, not yet standby. Yeah. That's why I invited you, Jake. That's why I invited you.
So when you're hot micing the phones, is there any type of indication for the user at the endpoint or for the administrator going through logs?
So on my Polycom, and again, this is just the Polycom 501, free recycled phone here. We stay pretty busy at Rendition, so I do have, and my wife will back me up on this, just a pile of phones that I haven't messed with yet. Specifically for the Polycom, the red light turned on. Would a user be able to distinguish that from, it's also the same light that alerts you to a voicemail? A lot of people never check their voicemail, and I'm sure at their desk it's just a red light always, right? Would you be able to tell? I don't know. As far as logging on the phone itself, I mean, They're pretty dumb. I mean, it will log to a syslog server. In the default configuration, there was no syslog server set up. So on the phone itself, not so much. On the PBX side, more so. However, like specific tasks, I haven't seen logged granularly, if that makes sense. And I got another question. I got one question. Can anyone tell me what the default Polycom web credentials are for a drone? I saw you. What's the username?
Wait, no.
What? Polycom? What's it, creds? Polycom, password is? I'm just messing with you. Thank you. George, you had a question?
Yeah, you talked about logins. I'm just curious. You said, like, I don't know, every phone in the network with the checksum packet. Does the fact that those phones are rebooted, is that audited? Is that logged somewhere? Does that go back to the callback?
I mean, you would hope. You know, some vendors have it that check syncs. They'll support check sync with reboot, but only if the config is changed on the provisioning server. So it depends on kind of how you're doing that attack. You know, if I'm becoming the provisioning server, then obviously my modified times of my configs and stuff would make the phone think that they're brand new. If I'm just trying to get it to reboot, in that kind of environment, yeah, that would have to be an extra step. I'd have to actually find the provisioning server, do some modifications over there in order to trick the phone to just reboot without checking. Not that I saw on the PBX side, no. No, not that I saw. You know, again, for a 35, 45-minute talk, you know, this could be an incredible workshop. I'd love to get a bunch of 20 phones out and we can just go to town. However, you know, this isn't quite the format for that. But no, haven't seen any explicit logging for that. I would say full take packet capture or even limited packet capture inside your network is a useful thing. Very easily, you can look at a SIP packet. SIP notify packet with a check sync message in there, and be able to, you know, block that or redirect that or do whatever inside your network, and hopefully that would be your best mitigation there. I mean, how often in the scenario? Thank you. In the scenario where I was on the Avaya, right? I was the first user to ever log into that thing via SSH, right? How often are you checking logs on the PBX? Probably not so much, right? And again, if your phone starts acting weird and your phone's rebooting, I think most people are going to say, "This phone's a piece of crap. Let's get a new one." Not an attacker's on here trying to mess with me. So, anything else? Some prizes?
There's no more questions. First, thanks, Brandon.
Thanks. Thanks for